computer first.
All right. Hey, fantastic. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you are tuning in to see this video. I am with Jaira Miller, who is LMHCA. I am Reverend Dr. Sean Moore, and welcome to Miller and Moore Unscripted Therapy. This is the very first time we are doing this, so it's kind of exciting. So, Jaira, how are you?
I'm good. I'm excited. I'm nervous. I'm sitting on the floor of my office. And if you're listening to this and you can't see what I just did, I did air quotes because it's not at all an office. My house is way too much going on for me to have my own office. So I find whatever private space I can find and I use that.
And currently I am sitting in my dining room area. This is the area between the front room and the kitchen, which is behind me. And so, yeah, I'm just, I set up shop where I set up shop. Yeah, that's what we're doing. So there's nothing fancy here. It's pretty much unscripted. And so we both really care about mental health, and we just want to share some things with you, and maybe hopefully listening to us can help in some way, because we're all about helping, unlocking, unbinding for people to expand into their greatness. That's what I think. But let's kind of start off by doing an introduction. Hey, Jaira, tell me a little bit about yourself. Yeah, a little about yourself, and why did you pick mental health as a career to go into?
Thanks, Sean. This is fun. And definitely unscripted, which is most of my life. So this will fit right into it. Why? Well, who am I? Let's start with that first. I'm a mom. I'm a woman, white woman. I'm a master's graduate in counseling psychology program. I've been involved in CASA, which is a third-party advocate for kids in the foster system. I've been in foster system directly as a foster parent. I was a pastor's wife for a while. I've experienced divorce. I've gone through domestic violence. And most importantly, I'm growing and I'm learning as fast as I can.
That's awesome. So, who am I? I am Sean Ramon Moore. I am ex-military. I used to work at Mall of America Security Department as their lead trainer. I'm a police officer, or a former police officer. I currently have my doctorate in public theology from United Seminary. And I decided to go back to school and get my master's degree in marriage and family therapy, because as a pastor, I realized that there are multiple people that were coming in and out of my office doing pastoral care, and they had issues and problems that had surpassed my understanding, or I would send them off somewhere to get professional help. They'd come back telling me, number one, there's no one that looks like me, i.e. no representation. And so I decided that to expand my own career as a pastor would be to go back through and become a licensed family therapist. So that's a little bit about who I am. I am an African-American male. I am heterosexual. I have a wife, or my partner. I have 2 children. I have an older daughter, and I have a younger son. And that is a little bit about who I am.
Sweet.
Indeed. Yeah. So I am this is my second year being in the marriage and family therapy program. So next year I will do all my practicums, and that will be it. I'm currently halfway through the entire program, which felt really good. But yeah, I'm learning a great deal. And so I'm also a professional licensed coach through ICF. And so I've done quite a bit of coaching on the side, and also pastoral care. And I used to think that going into the therapeutic modalities as in a degree program would be a piece of cake, would be easy. Because I spent so much time talking and engaging with people. But I'm really learning what I am learning, or that I'm learning pathologies, right? Things that people display, and then learning tools to help people through those things, which are good. So I'm learning new things. I thought it was just going to be old, learning new labels for old things, but it's a completely new program. How was your program experience?
My program experience kicked my butt. my my best way to describe the end of it is it can actually be done. Because I graduated, I know it can be finished. I went through the program in COVID with 3 kids home and a whole bunch of other stress that was going on. And I learned a lot, but I was really tired and really exhausted. And my program focuses as much on personal transformation as academics, even more so possibly. And so the level of personal change and growth that I went through over the 3 years of the program was tremendous. And I while there were a few things that I was like that I disagreed with the program on, most of it was completely invaluable to me and who I am now as a brand new baby therapist.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I'm learning so much about myself in this program. I didn't realize I was gonna be learning so much about myself, having things cracked open, broken open. I figured I was gonna learn how to crack open, break safes, break these bonds that are on people. But literally, I'm learning a great deal about myself and my own issues that I'm having and how I unlock those. And so yeah, it's been uniquely a gift to me and a uniquely different experience.
Yeah, that's one thing my program said more often than they didn't say it is you cannot take someone, you can only take somebody as far as you've gone yourself. And I'm finding that even now, as I'm wrestling with personal growth and personal processing, even with my current clients, that I'm growing. And then the next week, sometimes the things that I have thought about on my own behalf or have thought about on their behalf during the week, they'll often bring to me in session without any prompting from me. It's a weirdest phenomenon.
Right. Yeah, that's good. That's really good. So let me ask you this. Through your program, what tools, what modalities tend to resonate with you the most that you've gone through your program? So there are different tools, models, different theories that people kind of adhere to. What are the 2 or 3 that you kind of gravitate the most, your go-to?
Am I limited to 2 or 3, or can I use them all?
Use them all.
Okay. My program focused primarily on relational psychology, psychodynamic therapy, and narrative therapy. So relational has a really high emphasis on the dynamics between therapist and client and how that reflects or refines relationships outside of the therapeutic dyad. Narrative dives quite deeply into childhood stories, where you take a look at what the client what they told themselves in that story, which is often sort of clouded because of a child's limited understanding. And then going back into that story and reinterpreting some of the things that happened. So if the child blames themselves for a family member dying, going back into the story and examining the details and the emotions and the realities that occurred back then and reinterpreting that interpretation And what that does is often the child who believes it was their fault that maybe a family member died, they base certain actions off of that for the rest of their lives. It's just a piece of mental framework that's built in the midst of that story, that when you can go back and refine that story, and then the client can take that refined thinking and move forward with less guilt or shame in their interactions current day. Psychodynamic was originally based with Freudian theory, but it's since broadened in depth, and but the basic idea behind it, as I understood it, was what from your primary caregivers, what from their reactions and their beliefs became parts of your mental framework, and working with that and seeing how that affects you now and how you want to refine that now. My current supervisor, one of them, ascribes to many, has experience with so many different modalities, but two of the ones that he works with are CBT and DBT. And so I'm starting to pick up pieces of that, and I'm loving it. It just gives some really concrete steps for clients to try that has a little bit quicker implementation than relational or narrative or psychodynamic. So another one is ACT, and a friend and colleague of mine really appreciates ACT, which is, let me see if I can get this right, acceptance and commitment therapy. And that's basically allowing your problems to be present, but not the only thing you see. So instead of having your problems in front of your face and that's all you can see, having your problems be able to be off to the side a little bit and being able to see beyond only the problem. So those are little pieces. And I think, what is that, like 6 therapies that I'm sort of playing around with. I said to my supervisor the other day, I feel like I'm swimming in a sea of therapeutic modalities and I can't really quite grasp anything. And he said, oh my gosh, it took me 2.5 years to admit to that. I'm so proud of you. You admitted it earlier. So perhaps that means I can grow faster. I don't know. That would be my hope.
Gotcha.
How about you, Sean? What do you?
So I've been introduced to quite a few of them, and I think the thing that was told to me early on is, like when you said you can't take anyone further along than you've gone. I also believe that I can't take anyone outside of my particular context.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm very careful as an African American male saying things to people that are not within my without staying in my lane. And so I feel called to my first primary role is to the African American community. Next would be the law enforcement and military community, because I've been both a cop in the military. So with those things being said, I get introduced to multiple things. So there is symbolicism or symbolic objective relations. There's postmodern, there's Bowen, narrative, DBT, and CBT. And out of all of those, the ones that pretty much line up with me are the ones that I tend to gravitate to the most, which would be DBT and CBT. I also think that narrative is very important as it relates to the BIPOC community and dealing with what I like to call, or what is called, racialized trauma. Telling a story around that and reframing particular stories that where you can engage in power to shift these things around. So I think narrative is very important, but my primary go-to is DBT. I resonate with it. I understand it. It's helpful for me, the idea of mindfulness, emotional regulation, interpersonal effectiveness, and distress tolerance. And so those are 4 of the key components of DBT. with multiple tools. I really need concrete and sequential for my own life. I know there are people that are in the military and law enforcement that also dig that. And so again, it's a natural fit. Of course, I wouldn't disregard any therapy that helps someone else out. But again, the things that I tend to gravitate towards are DBT, CBT, and narrative. And I think the only difference between DBT and CBT is that DBT includes mindfulness, because DBT comes out of CBT. So I think they're both really good, or they're really good at giving people pinpoint steps for those that can adhere to this, adhere to the steps. There's lots of growth and unlocking very quickly that I've noticed with individuals that are able to go on to a program that's, I wouldn't say rigid. It's as rigid as the person wants to do, but again, the steps are very clear and concrete, and so easy to say, I'm accomplishing these things or I'm not. So that's kind of where I stand with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I've found too, is there's not always the capability of doing 3, 4, 5 years of therapy. And DBT, CBT allows you to make gains without having really long-term therapy.
Right. And I will say there are people that really do need long-term therapy, and DBT and CBT probably aren't the best things for them. Maybe narrative. I guess as I go through all of the modalities that are being introduced to me, I literally recognize their usefulness to me, to Sean, like within my context. And then there's some of them just like, yeah, that's not for me. And so I tend to eat the chicken and leave the bones in my program. So anything that I know works for me that I can use, I adhere to, and those that aren't, I kind of hang out in the back. I'm going to need them for our national exam, but I don't spend a great deal of time trying to figure them out or rack my brain on why would it work for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and another thing that my school harped on was that who you are as a counselor, or as a person, I should say, who you are as a person is the most effective tool you have. And so that's what I hear you saying.
Yeah.
I'm going to take what works for me. I'm going to really get to know that. And that's what I'm going to offer my clients. And that's you offering yourself, which is powerful.
Yeah. I tend to feel like out of place in most settings until I'm around those that are former law enforcement. Those are former are law enforcement, military, and then with folks that have an A-type personality, who are African American, who are BIPOC. And so I think in our program we've been told that be you, be the better version of you, and let that be the number one thing that you're going to present to people. And for the longest time, when I first started this program, I just thought, man, I'm going to have to cry all the time, hugging trees, saving baby seals, becoming soft serve ice cream. And I'm not arguing those things are bad. They're just not me. They're not me. And so I just thought, I don't know what kind of a therapist I'm going to. Now I recognize I can be all I am supposed to be, but the better version of that, and then present that. And so that's been really refreshing for me.
That's really cool. Yeah, giving the freedom to bring yourself instead of having to clamp all that down.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say through my program, I felt like the odd man out of because I gravitate towards or see the value in the DBT CBT Act. That wasn't highly emphasized in my program. And so that created some dynamics between me and the people that seem to fit into the program better. And I don't know if this was just my perception or if this was reality. But since graduating and now talking to practicing therapists as much as I can, I'm finding a lot of camaraderie that I'm really enjoying. And even though it's an isolating field, I'm still, when I have the chance to talk to them, I'm like, breath of fresh air. We can talk about these things in a real world setting. It's been really cool.
That's cool. So now that you're done with your program, who do you want to serve? How are you going to use what you've learned to change the world?
Well, I have a 10-year plan, and as soon as I graduated, the 10-year plan slipped out from my head. Just with overwhelm of starting my practice. But on that 10-year plan is a reconciliation organization, an organization that combines mental health with interpersonal reconciliation. And I think that in a sense, my mission and my goal with that is to do a whole bunch of things all at once. First and foremost is to help people understand themselves and understand others better. Because I think that's what, at least in the US right now, we're having a real difficult time understanding ourselves. And often we blame either somebody else or we blame some aspect of ourselves. And then out of that grows a judgmentalism of others. And I think as we can begin to work with that in both self-acceptance and others' acceptance, we'll be able to relate to one another better. Mixed in with that, I also want to create greater access to mental health. And I say quality mental health. There are community mental health that's available, but sometimes it's not adequate for what people really need. And so my goal is to be constantly working towards increasing access to quality mental health that fills the need of whatever the individual has. So what is that going to look like? I don't know. We'll see.
Did I know that before?
I don't know. Did I maybe not ever tell you that?
I'm not sure, but again, so I created this nonprofit called the Center for Reconciliation. It's literally about being reconciled with yourself and the community. And when I first started this organization, it was just about education. How does one be reconciled with those that are around them? Now that I'm back in school working on this graduate program, I'm tying in mental health into this thing. So how do I be reconciled with myself and with others? How do I engage in co-creation? How do I writing new covenants and then mastery? How do I master this? And so my understanding of reconciliation is Ubuntu Sabona. I am because you are, and I see you. Co-creation, writing new covenants, and then mastery, and then round and round and round and round you go until it'd be like a vegetable peeler putting in an apple, and it just keeps shaving till you get to the seeds. And then as the blades of community, co-creation, a covenant writing, and mastery are rubbing up against it, it begin to infuse these four. And now when these seeds get planted somewhere else, they begin to grow community, co-creation, covenant writing, and mastery.
So beautiful. It's my dream that our kids have a different world than we have.
Yes, for sure.
And I think if we teach them right, teach them well, and love them well, that it's possible.
Yes. There's always the prime mover. There's always a mover behind something. And unless someone's pushing or driving forward, it doesn't happen. And so I think about my blind side or my shadow side and what it's pushing forward. And again, the program is helping me to re-educate me on things that I've said and done as an adult towards my kids and my wife that make me, it cracks me open like, man, that's not correct. Even though I think I'm doing and saying what's correct, I'm really causing harm. And so it is this idea of kind of the cup. I need to fill my cup up with goodness and then pour it into others and keep pouring my cup. So it's like, if I have a bunch of people that want orange juice and I've got this container here. I think it's 42 ounces of water, brand new water jug. So if I keep pouring into other cups, then it's all gone. I don't have any more water or juice in it. So I have to constantly be filling up my jug. I have to constantly be engaging in what does it mean for me to be reconciled with myself? How do I see myself? How do I build community within myself? How do I deal with creation? How do I write new covenants that I'm going to keep? How do I use this to empower people through mastery and then passing it off? And so reconciliation with myself is the same model of reconciliation with others in my environment. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and I think under that model that you were just talking about, there's less shame. Like, yeah, there's things that we don't like that we've done, or things that ways we think about things right now that all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, that's not really super healthy. But there's less shame, less judgment on your character and who you are, and simply something that is like, okay, we'll change it.
Yeah. Very cool. I was about to go crazy here, I think. You can hear the dog going crazy. Yeah. So we introduced ourselves. We talked about our passions, our philosophies, kind of the modalities that we want to share with those that are out there listening to us. So the question is, what are we going to do? Right? And this introduction of who we are, what we're going to be, that's cool. But we are literally doing this for a purpose and a reason. And what would you say the reason and the purpose is?
Well, this is part of my efforts to increase access to quality mental health care. And I think that it's really if you have the ability to go see a therapist and do the therapeutic work, it's going to be an amazing endeavor for you. But if for some reason you simply don't have the ability to go into a therapist's office, you can't pay for it, or you don't have the time, or it's not allowed by the community you're in, or you just simply can't because you're in a situation where you can't, I want you to have free access whenever, if you have time at midnight to watch a little bit of a podcast, then you have 15 minutes at midnight to watch a little bit of podcast, and I want to contribute to the information you have available to you.
Fantastic. I think for myself, it's the same thing. Access for those that don't have access. The idea of also reconciliation, and the idea of growth, expanding, and just the idea of engaging someone who is different from myself, and moving the work forward. I think it's important that we are always thinking about how do we better ourselves, our neighborhood, our community, our state, our world.
100%.
Yeah.
Sweet. What
Is there a tool that you'd like to leave folks with, or this very first time is just our introduction, like, hey, I'm this is what I want to do, and there's something that you want to leave them with, or should we leave them with something or talk about something? Or
I think, that would be great. Why don't we each present our favorite tool, and leave people with that favorite tool? There's so many.
Gotcha.
Air quotes again.
So I think I'd like to leave them with a theory, because I'm going to base everything that I'm going to say off of this, and this is the wise mind theory, right? The wise mind says that there is the emotional mind, and this is where I'm happy, sad, or I can be controlled by my emotions. Then there is the rational mind, which is this logical thing that I can put everything through this logical rubric. The wise mind, if you had circles connected, they would be in the middle is the wise mind, which includes our emotions and also our rationale. And so it's the wise mind that helps us make wise decisions. Well, that's fine. You can come on in. It's unscripted, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So who knows? I might see the kiddos or your kids or whatever else. But yeah, I just want to leave folks with you don't have to have one or the other to dictate how you do things. That it's a beautiful thing that when you can have your emotions and your rationale weave together, because in the middle, you'll be able to see by far clearer. And I know there are folks that say you can't be dictated by your emotions, then you can't be Captain Spock or Lieutenant Spock or Commander Spock on Star Trek, where everything's logical, right? So there's got to be a mixture of both. So I'd like to just leave that as something that I'm going to build upon every single time, using the wise mind as a way to unlock, expand, and seek out greatness.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait to hear more, Sean. I think mine is the benefits of those weird things like deep breathing. So we'll just concentrate on that one. There's other ones that are similar, but it feels weird, it feels awkward, and especially when you first begin to try to do some of these calming techniques, it feels like, really, is this going to help my mental health? I'm way too far gone for this simple little thing to work. But what it does is it begins to calm your physiology so that your fight or flight system calms itself and goes offline. And the rest of your brain, your creative side, your rational side, your analyzing side, can begin to work with your body again. And so just as simple as breathing in really slowly, holding, exhaling slowly, can calm your physiology from maybe you're at 7 in an anxiety level between 1 and 10, maybe you're at a 7. It can bring it down as much as 6, and you can think better and you can process better, even just one little tiny bit. So that's what I would leave people with today.
Fantastic. Well, we're gonna do this boldly moving forward. Would you like to close this?
All right. Thank you all for joining us. This has been a blast for us to be here, and I hope it's as much for you. We're trying to be really real, really relatable. That's kind of who we are. So you're kind of just joining in with us with our lives, and that's the point, is you're going to grow and process with us as we grow and process, and we hope to journey by your side.
That'll work. All right.